for history purposes, the terrible aftermath. He gives a very stirring presentation of the assassination by John Wilkes Booth. The terrible aftermath, page. Shortly before 11 p.m., John arrived at the Navy Yard Bridge across the Potomac's eastern branch. Wartime security was still in effect even though Lee had surrendered, and the bridge was guarded by 3 Union soldiers. When they asked John who he was and where he was headed, he rather surprisingly gave them his real name and said he was returning to his home in Maryland. Apparently, he convinced the soldiers that he posed no threat, for they let him proceed. He urged his mare forward and disappeared into the darkness on the other side of the river. A little while later, Davy Harold, one of John's accomplices, approached the same bridge on a rented horse. He and John had arranged earlier that day to meet at a certain time and place in Maryland. Harold came from the region and knew all of its back roads, which would be extremely useful as John's plot his escape route. Unlike John, Davy gave the soldiers on guard at the bridge an alias, but they waved him on just the same. He spurred his horse and hurried to keep his appointment with the other elements in John's bold plot to bring down the U.S. government did not go as smoothly. In his room at the Kirkwood House, George Atzerodt had his bowie knife at the ready to kill Vice President Andrew Johnson. As the hour for the deed drew nearer, though, Atzerodt got cold feet. Instead of going to Johnson's room on the floor below and knocking on the vice president's door, Atzerodt went down to the hotel bar. After drinking there for a half hour or so, he headed out the street. He found a tavern in the next block and spent the night there, getting more and more drunk as the hours passed. Unlike Atzerodt, Lewis Powell set out that evening fully intending to carry out his assignment, the assassination of Secretary of State William H. Seward. The neatly dressed Powell told a servant who answered the door at the Seward's house that he had brought a medicine for the secretary. Powell knew that Seward had been seriously injured in a carriage accident a week earlier and was recuperating in his bed at the time. The servant believed Powell's story and let him in, but Seward's son Frederick was not as trusting. He intercepted Powell on the stairs and told him he couldn't go any farther. Determined to carry out his mission, Powell pulled out a revolver and aimed it at Frederick. When the gun failed to go off, he pistol-whipped Frederick with it, knocking the young man to the floor. Then, drawing a knife, Powell headed for Seward's bedroom. 2 more people tried in vain to stop him. Seward's daughter, whom he shoved viciously aside, and a male army nurse, whom he slashed across the brow. Entering Seward's dimly lit room, Powell crossed to the secretary's bed and stabbed the sleeping man 3 times about the head. As Seward fell helplessly from the bed to the floor, Powell turned away and lurched out of the room. Another of Seward's sons, Augustus, and the revived army nurse tried to stop him, but Powell ran down the stairs and out to the street shouting, "I'm mad! I'm mad!" So anyway, look how cute Powell is. Oop. Great look. That's Powell. Anyway, this is the man. The poor innocent man he stabbed. Jimmy Stewart's ugly ancestor. But anyway, so this book it's really fun. It's a perfect book for me.